Hi, I'm Chuck Myron,
And I'm his wife, Taryn Myron.
and we're married to Saturdays.
Married to Saturdays. Welcome back. 2026 college football season.
We made it.
We
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 made
did.
it.
We've had a lot happen during this off season in football and a little personally. So before we get started, I would just like to take a moment to dedicate this episode to my father Richard, who unfortunately passed away this past December. This is going to be my first ever football season without him in my life. So, Dad, this episode is dedicated to you.
Thank you. It's going to be a different season, I think, for us, but
Yes.
a season nonetheless, and he'll be with us wherever he may be. So
That's right. And with that, let's get started. Let's talk about 2026 college football. We've all been waiting for it. I don't know about you, but I've been super miserable that there's no college football on. And that will all end this Saturday.
That's right. We kick off at noon, and that begins, I think, really an interesting season. Another interesting season
Yes.
with the transfer portal. Uh, and maybe depending on what happens legislatively, could be the last kind of its kind.
Right.
So yeah, well, I think we've got a lot to work with here, a lot to talk
Yes.
about. Let's think about, okay, and maybe this is jumping ahead a little bit, and I think it is jumping ahead a little bit. But let's talk about who we think is going to win each of those Power Four conferences.
That's right. This is a very early prediction, and we're going to come back at the end of the season and see how close we were.
Yeah, we don't normally make predictions, but we do want to start at the beginning of the season just to level set on how we think the season is going to go. So let's talk about the conference that has won the last three national championships, is the big boy on the block right now. That's the Big Ten. Who do you see coming out of that Big Ten this year?
I think it's really interesting because the Big Ten is a great conference. Obviously, they've won the last three national championships. They've been in, the best of the best. There's was Michigan, and then Ohio State, and then Indiana. All really great teams. When you talk about the Big Ten, though, this year, I think you have three really great teams at the top. I think you have Oregon, I think you have Ohio State, and Indiana. So those three, I think they're all going to do really well. But if I had to predict today who I think is going to win the Big Ten, I'm going with you, Buckeye fans. Ohio State all the way to win the Big Ten.
So back on top for them after a year of Indiana, and that they Ohio State very nearly won the conference. Of course, had that missed field goal against Indiana in the conference championship game last year.
That's right.
So certainly no stretch at all to see Ohio State getting back on top this year.
And I'm not saying Indiana won't be in the game. I think they have a very good chance of getting back into that game.
Well, I think they have a very good chance of getting back to that game, and I think they have a very good chance, and I think the best chance to win it.
Okay.
I think Indiana is after last year. Who could doubt Indiana? 16-0. What Curt Cignetti has done with that program is the stuff of legend. In 2 years, he's taken a moribund nowhere program,
right?
That you questioned why they were even considered a power conference program.
You mean the basketball school, Indiana?
Right. And turned them into the first 16-0 team since the 19th century.
Yes.
So I see no reason why they can't continue that. Cignetti has done nothing but prove his doubters wrong, and I think he'll do the same again this year and win the Big Ten in back-to-back seasons.
Okay. I think it's a very logical prediction. I know you're a big fan of Indiana and Curt Cignetti, so we'll see how the season plays out. It's going to be a great one in the Big Ten. There could be some surprises, and we could be talking about a team that we didn't even talk about today. Could be a Michigan, could be a USC. We'll see.
All right. So lots at the top in the Big Ten, and really lots at the top in the SEC too.
Yes.
This is a conference that's hungry, wants to get back to the top of college football.
Yes.
But who's going to be that leading team when we come to the end of that SEC championship game this year?
I think the SEC is also a great conference. They're, probably as good as the Big Ten as far as, the talent. They probably have better teams overall than the Big Ten. I think the SEC has a lot of great teams. The problem with the SEC is they just beat up on each other. And I think when it comes to playing those teams out of the Big Ten, that's why they've kind of, fell short for lack of better words. I mean, look at poor Alabama last year, who got absolutely housed by Indiana in the playoffs, and they definitely looked like they didn't even belong there. But with all of that said, the SEC again, you've got those teams at the top, um, and I think it's actually. Thinking about this, I think Georgia has the best chance to win the SEC. They've got a great team. They've got Kirby Smart, who just keeps churning out the talent. It's almost like he's a machine. I don't know how Georgia's going to do in the playoffs, but I do think they're going to win the SEC.
Well, if we think about last year's playoffs, the last SEC team standing was Mississippi, Ole Miss.
Correct.
And that team is really sort of some of it is with still with Ole Miss, Trinidad Chambliss,
Yes.
of course,
Great quarterback. Yes.
but a lot of that team is now with Lane Kiffin at LSU.
Yes.
And it's very tempting to look at what Lane Kiffin has done, all of the transfer portal people that he's brought in, and say that's the most talented team in the SEC, and that's the team that'll be standing at the end. But where Lane Kiffin goes, controversy follows.
Yes.
And LSU is a place that is tumultuous to begin with.
Yes, there's certainly no stranger to controversy.
I'm not so certain all that is a recipe for success.
I agree. I don't think LSU is there this year.
I don't either. I think Georgia. Now, there's a school that has shown it's able to reload.
Yes.
A repeated pattern. Kirby Smart. Still, I think the blue ribbon of the SEC.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to pick against Georgia, even though Texas
is very good.
Mississippi, of course.
Mm-hmm. Alabama, always
Alabama. But Georgia is a cut above the rest, and I predict Georgia to win the SEC.
Texas A&M might challenge this year as well. So again,
absolutely.
Hey, we agree on the SEC championship, so that's great.
All right. So next up, we have the Big 12.
Okay.
And what do you see coming out of the Big 12?
The Big 12 is always a very interesting conference. I feel like of the Power Four, they just don't have the best teams. They don't seem to play on the same level as maybe, even the ACC, but definitely not the level of the Big Ten and the SEC. But you have some really good talent there. I thought about Utah with, head coach Kalani Sitake and all the people they have there. And what a great job, or BYU, excuse me, not Utah, BYU. What a great job he's done at BYU. And I definitely think they're a contender. However, I'm going to go with last year's Big 12 winner in Texas Tech. Texas Tech has money. They keep reloading, and they are spending a lot of money, and they are, it's certainly paying off with all the wins they have. It's like a basic business 101. You got to spend money to make money. In college football, you got to spend money to win in this era. And I think Texas Tech is doing a really good job of spending the money, and I think they're going to repeat as Big 12 champs.
Well, I think when it comes to money and Texas Tech, you can't really talk about those two subjects without talking about gambling.
Well, that's
and
true.
Brendan Sorsby.
Yes.
And that was probably the biggest story of many stories in the offseason of college football.
Absolutely.
Texas Tech stood by Brendan Sorsby until it could stand by him no longer. And it's really interesting. Because it became really they're like the LSU of the Big 12.
Yes.
You think about lightning rods for controversy.
Yes.
And I look at Texas Tech and certainly they have a lot of talent there. That did translate into a Big 12 championship last season, but BYU was mighty close.
Yes, and I really like BYU.
And I really like the quarterback, Bear Bachmeier.
Yes.
And I think an experienced quarterback, as we've seen in this transfer portal era, is an asset. And
Absolutely.
without Brendan Sorsby at Texas Tech, I think now the mantle goes to BYU and Bear Bachmeyer, and it's going to be a really interesting battle between those two teams. I think they are going to probably meet in that Big 12 championship
Absolutely.
game
I
again,
agree.
even though there are some other contenders.
Yes.
But this time I think it's BYU's season.
Mm-hmm. Great prediction. So yeah, it's going to be a great season for the Big 12, and certainly some other contenders we can look at, possibly Houston, possibly Arizona State. You never know what Dion's going to do out of Colorado, so it's going to be a great year for the Big 12.
Well, one power conference left, and your favorite, the ACC.
Oh yes. As much as I would love to say Florida State's going to go all the way, they're going to win the ACC, we all know that's not going to happen short of a miracle. We're going to talk a lot about Florida State in a little bit. But the ACC, what a conference. They had Duke and Virginia playing in last year's ACC conference game. I don't think either one of those teams are going to be there this year. I mean, how can you not think Miami is going to go to the ACC championship this year with the season they had last year, the players they have coming back? I mean, yes, they lost Carson Beck, but they got Darian Mensah. They say he's one of the best transfer quarterbacks in this offseason transfer cycle. So we'll see how he does with Miami. I mean, he's already has ACC experience. I'm going to go on what you said about those experienced quarterbacks. They can really make a huge difference. Mario Cristobal, this Florida State fan, I hate to admit how great of a job Mario Cristobal has done at Miami. He's really turned that program around. I mean, we all know just even like 2 or 3 years ago how bad Miami was. So I give him all the credit. I do think there's some contenders in SMU and Louisville, and it's the ACC. So you never know what's going to happen. But I would predict that Miami will win the ACC this year.
Well,
long time coming.
They, that's right. They have never won the ACC.
That's right.
Even though they made it to the championship game against Indiana and pushed Indiana.
Yes, they
in
almost
that
won
game
that
last
game.
year. Look, you're right. Experience does matter at quarterback. They've got Darian Mensah coming in. Now, the question I think for Miami is, can they be anywhere near as good on defense as they were last year?
Mm-hmm.
That was a scary team
yes.
on defense. That pass rush came at you.
Yes.
Certainly, Julian Sayin
yes.
knew all about the secondary and how they were able to flip games.
Right.
So I think that's the big question mark for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
As well as consistency.
Yes.
Even last year, they had their hiccups, and that's been a hallmark, really, of Mario Cristobal's tenure there.
Yes.
But all that said, I think we saw a little bit of a different Cristobal down the stretch last season in those playoffs.
Yes.
Different sort of Miami team, and with another experienced quarterback in place, they replace Carson Beck with Darian Mensah, and I think with enough on defense, I look for Miami to again win to be the class of the ACC, and this time actually to win the ACC now that they've gotten those tiebreakers worked out.
Right. Any other contenders you think in the ACC that might be in the championship game or might push Miami around a little bit?
Well, I think SMU. You look at them. Of course, they were in the playoffs 2 years ago. Louisville, as you mentioned, Virginia. They were nearly the ACC champions last year.
Yes.
And maybe even a dark horse like an NC State. And we'll talk a little bit about Virginia and NC State later on in this podcast.
We will. And, don't necessarily count out Clemson either as a dark horse.
Well,
they always like to surprise.
Dabo is still there.
Yes.
For good or ill.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's another ACC team that I really want to talk about now, and it's your favorite. It's Florida State.
That's right.
They make their debut in Week 0 this Saturday. So tell me a little bit about what you're expecting.
Oh boy. Oh, Florida State. As far as the season, as far as the game,
let's talk about the season.
Okay. So, Florida State, what a season that we're going to have. We went 2 years ago, 2-10. Last year was 5-7. There was an improvement. Not much, but there was an improvement. We have the new transfer quarterback in Ashton Daniels from Auburn, which I am not sold on. I think it was a mistake to name him the starter, but hey, I'm not a coach. I really like Malachi Marshall, who is now in there at camp. He's taking a lot of snaps. He's looking good. So I think it's still going to be interesting to see how we do at quarterback this year. Um, we do have, Deuce Robinson coming back, who was amazing. He's one of the top wide receivers in the country. And then I know we have the Texas transfer Trey Wisner, and I believe we have somebody, I think from FAU. I'm sorry, I don't know his name off the top of my head, but another running back transfer from FAU. So we'll see how that dynamic works out. I will say on the defensive side of the ball, we got Tony White coming back as the defensive coordinator. Oh, and we have a new offensive coordinator, and Mike Norvell is calling the plays. So we'll see how that goes. But I think our defense is much better, in a better position. We returned a lot of the defensive players from last year. I think they're starting to get settled now under Tony White's defensive scheme. So I actually look for the defense to be better this year. And you know, I'm still not sure about the offense.
Well, the offense last year was the ACC's best, statistically anyway,
Right.
Especially on the ground.
Right.
And so they've got a lot coming back.
Yes.
Deuce Robinson
Yes.
and Micah Danzey.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
both back.
Crum is back as well.
So
Yes.
and it was really running back by committee for to a large extent last year, but it all came together. And of course, now they add, Ashton Daniels coming in from Auburn, and also big left tackle from Auburn in Xavier Chaplin.
Yes.
So I think you have a lot of parts there, a lot of tools for success on that side of the ball.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think defense then is the X factor, right?
Yeah.
No, there's been a lot of turnover on that defense. Lots of talent lost from last year, but you're bringing in a lot too with transfers from North Carolina, Texas A&M, and Duke. So the question is really whether that new look defense is a better look defense at the end of the day.
We'll see. We'll see. We kind of disagree on the defense, so interesting. Yeah, but and Florida State is so up and down. Inconsistency, it seems like, is their model. Like last year, started out great with that huge win over Alabama. And then we just, blew out the next two games, and then Florida State lost in overtime to Virginia. And poor Squirrel White has probably never been the same. Florida State got punched in the stomach last year with that loss to Virginia, and they never recovered. That is a coaching problem. That is an institutional problem. If that happens again, which it probably will, can Mike Norvell bring that team back up? I don't know that he can.
Well, I think there are going to be some early tests on that schedule.
Yes.
I think SMU.
Labor Day night.
And Labor Day night, and then, of course, the trip to Tuscaloosa.
Oh, yes.
So I think, look, we're going to find out a lot about this Florida State team early, but speaking of early, there's week 0 against New Mexico. Now, what do you expect to see in this game?
Well, before we get to New Mexico, do we want to share our season predictions for how Florida State's going to do?
Well, you go first.
Okay, so I think it's not going to be a good season. I think it's going to be another disaster. And if Mike Norvell doesn't get fired, I would be shocked. I think that by the end of the season, we'll be talking about how Florida State's going to move in a new direction. So I'm sorry, but I am pessimistic about my team this year. And I really want to be wrong, but I'm going to say 4-8. And I'm going to say we're going to beat New Mexico State, Central Arkansas, and 2 ACC teams to be later determined. So I think it's going to be 4-8. I think it's going to be another bad season. I think we're going to regress a little bit. Now, I hope I'm wrong. Now, I think best case scenario, if the talent is actually there and they play like a team and Mike Norvell is not a horrible coach this year, I think best case scenario, 8-4, 9-3.
Well,
I'm extremely positive on that, optimistic on that.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about 9-3, but I think 8-4 is within this team's grasp. However, I think 4-8 is also equally within the team's grasp.
Yes.
This really, for me, this seems like a 6-6 type of team. It's a team with a lot of good parts on offense and a lot of question marks on defense. So I could very easily see a a lot of points on the board
Yes.
for both Florida State and their opponents this year.
Yes.
That seems to be how it's shaping up now. If the transfers on defense overperform, if they're
Great.
that's a team, yeah, that could get to 8-4,
Mm-hmm.
and if they underperform, that's a team that could get to 4-8. So it's that middle range. I
So
think
what is your prediction then? I guess overall, what do you think they're going to do?
6-6,
Okay.
and I think that leaves a very interesting decision at the end of the day about Mike Norvell,
Mm-hmm.
because that would be consecutive seasons of improvement,
Correct.
but only incremental improvement.
It's improvement. You do get to a bowl game at 6-6.
You get to a bowl game, but it's not a kind of a bowl game that the
You want to
Florida
go
State,
to, yeah.
has been known for in the past.
Yes.
And so I think, unfortunately, I see a lot of ambiguity continuing for Florida State. Now, where do those 6 wins and 6 losses come from? Is it like last season where you have a big win that shows the capability of the team, or do they beat the teams they should beat and lose to the teams they should lose to? I think that's going to shape a lot of the thinking around whether you retain Mike Norvell.
Exactly. And and there's also that huge buyout that he's still got. I believe it's 45.5 million this year. So that's always a huge factor.
Yes, absolutely, and that's why I think 6-6 uh, is still you still retain the possibility of retaining Mike Norvell. If it weren't for that buyout, I think he would already have been gone.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure we would be talking about a new head coach this year.
So, well, we start to look at this year and the first game against New Mexico. Is this to you? Is this merely a tune-up, or do you think New Mexico could challenge Florida State in this game?
Well, I think that New Mexico could absolutely challenge us in this game, and let me tell you why. Because this is week 0. It's the first game. Everybody's getting used to functioning as a team. This is a real game environment. Now, I would love to see Florida State, win by 30. I think that's, about what they're predicting. But I think the score is actually going to be a little bit closer than that. I hope I'm wrong. I want you all to tell me in the comments after Saturday that I'm completely wrong and that we blew them out and we scored 35 points in the first half. I'd love to be that. But I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I think we're going to win. But I think it's going to be a little bit closer because we're going to struggle. Yes, the game is at home and that's great, but I think we're going to struggle at least at first.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if you scored 35 points in the first half, but are you giving up 21 or 28 points
exactly.
at the same time?
Exactly.
That might be the biggest question mark.
And that's why I say I think it might be a little closer than people think.
Well, we shall see. But that's merely one of the games on tap
yes.
in week 0. A very ACC heavy week.
Yes, we're going to get a lot of ACC games. We're going to learn about several more ACC teams this week, see them in action, not just Florida State. Who are we going to see first in that international game?
Well, that international game, one that I think a lot of Florida State fans still have a little hangover from a couple of years ago in Dublin against Georgia Tech this year. Just one ACC team in that game in Dublin, North Carolina, and Bill Belichick.
Yes.
They take on TCU. That's a noon game on ESPN.
That's right. So at noon, it's going to be the very first FBS college football game. We're all so excited. I know here at Married to Saturdays, Chuck and I are going to be setting our timers to that. But think about last year's game. North Carolina got absolutely housed by TCU. I don't know that they're going to get housed, but I think they're going to lose. I just think TCU's got too many weapons.
48-14 was the final in that one.
Yeah.
And this is
that was in Chapel Hill last year.
Right, and this is a TCU team that has been very successful. Most wins in the Big 12 over the last 4 years, and of course that includes that run to the national title game.
That's right. But then they got housed by Georgia.
Right. Well, there is a change a little bit this year. Sonny Dykes pivoting away from a pass-happy attack to a more balanced style of offense. They've been turnover prone, and so maybe reining things in might be a little bit more successful for them, or maybe
Right.
not. Maybe it takes their mojo away.
Yes.
They lost Josh Hoover, their
Yes.
quarterback from last year. He's now with Indiana, which speaks to really the success
Mm-hmm.
that he had. If you're going to Indiana, if you're going to the national
Yeah.
champions, you must have done something right
At
that year
TCU,
before.
right.
So Harvard's Jaden Craig
Yes.
is in
This
at
will be,
quarterback.
I think this will be a really great game for him to start out with. It's quite a learning curve. There's no comparison to playing for Harvard and playing for a Power Four team.
Well, and then on the other side of the ball, pass defense, that was the Big 12's worst last year at
Mm-hmm.
TCU. So some question marks, I think, on
Yes.
both sides of the ball for TCU.
Absolutely.
But some question marks certainly for North Carolina.
I mean, Bill Belichick, what else can you say?
A lot.
But I'm sure there's more. He's probably the biggest question mark, and I think his seat is also like Mike Norvell's, maybe not as hot, but I think he's going to start out at least warm.
Well, bad offense last year, okay?
Really bad.
120th in yards per play last year.
That's bad.
And he brought in Bobby Petrino from Arkansas
Right.
to try and fix that. Another guy who has an interesting path,
Yes.
shall we say.
And Bobby Petrino, you never know what he's going to bring in his offenses. He's kind of a wild card.
Well, Arkansas was 13th in total offense last year. This year with North Carolina, they're replacing Gio Lopez at quarterback.
Yes.
He transferred to Wake Forest. Billy Edwards from Maryland, by way of Wisconsin, is in.
Right. Power Four experience, unlike the TCU quarterback.
Right. That could be a factor, especially because, North Carolina had pretty good defense last year, but they were hurt by their third down, their third down, and especially their fourth down defense.
Yes.
They gave up 24 out of 32 fourth down conversions last season.
Wow.
That's not going to get it done. That's going to get you beat. Now their defensive coordinator, Steve Belichick.
Yes.
Bill Belichick's son.
Right.
He's also sick. He's out on medical
Correct.
leave. And there are not many returnees on defense for North Carolina.
Right.
So obviously, week 0, it's all about question marks, especially in the transfer portal era. But this could be a good measuring stick, I think, for both programs.
I agree. I'm really looking forward to this game, and I think this will tell us more about each of these teams.
Absolutely. And speaking of more, some more ACC.
More ACC.
At 3:30, we have NC State at Virginia on ESPN.
Oh, that's a great game too. You want to watch? Like you said, Virginia played in the ACC championship last year. Are they going to take a step back? How's NC State going to do? Because with NC State, Dave Doran and his crew, you never know how they're going to do. Some years, I think they're inconsistent at best. Some years they've been good. Some years they've been bad. So yeah, what do you think?
Well, NC State, one thing they have actually done consistently is tread water. They've won 7 or more games 10 out of the last 12 years under Dave Doran.
Right.
So they're going to.
So Dave Doran himself is consistent.
Yeah, they're going to be a representative team, and they have C.J. Bailey at quarterback.
Yes.
But they lost Hollywood Smothers to Texas to replace Wisner, who went to Florida State.
Yes.
So he Smothers, in addition to running the ball, was also one of the team's top 5 pass catchers. All of them are gone. So a lot to replace there for you have the quarterback back, but most of his weapons are gone.
Right.
Jaden Scott, though, he was a good backup running back. He rushed for 196 yards against Georgia Tech last year. He's back for NC State. So at least one arrow in the quiver.
Yes.
But on the flip side, NC State's defense was bad last year.
Yes.
111th in total defense.
Wow.
And 128th in third down conversions.
Wow.
They were like North Carolina. They were bad on third down.
Yes.
So they brought in defenders from Miami, from Georgia, Penn State to try and fix that.
Right.
Yeah, it's some interesting potential, I think,
I
there
agree.
for NC State.
Absolutely.
Now, Virginia, Virginia, a very interesting team.
Yes.
Lots of experience.
Yes.
Lots of seniors and grad students, between both returnees and transfers on this team. One of those experienced guys is Will Pribula.
Yes. From Missouri.
From Missouri. He was at Penn State 2 years ago.
That's right.
Of course, left that Penn State team in the playoffs to transfer to Missouri.
That's right.
Didn't last long there. Now he's at Virginia. Another interesting transfer, Peyton Lewis, the ex-Vol from Tennessee. He comes over.
Someone's a little sad.
Well, we still have Bishop there, Sean Bishop. So I think,
and we'll talk about Tennessee probably more next podcast.
Yeah. Not shedding too many tears. But they also have an interesting transfer on defense. Brandon Hillman comes in. Virginia using the transfer portal pretty well.
Yes.
They're kind of the opposite of NC State last year on defense. NC State really struggled on third down. Virginia was really good. They were second in the country in third down efficiency. So that stands out. And not only were they good on defense against third down, Virginia on offense, they were 8th in the country.
I believe that. I remember the game we played against them last year.
Yeah. Yes. So they got that defense off the field, and they kept their offense on it. Now.
And that's why they were so successful last year.
Can they repeat that last year? Because last year they won 5 one-score games. So if that bend but don't break defense breaks, if you start slipping in that efficiency that was top 10 in the country in both regards,
yes,
and those one-score games flip, then maybe Virginia, that was on the precipice of an ACC championship, is actually looking perhaps at a sub 500 record. So I think a lot for both teams in this game, NC State and Virginia. They could. This really is an interesting toss-up of a game.
I agree. Yes, this is going to be. Yeah, I can't even tell you who I think is going to win because I don't really know.
Well,
I think they're kind of evenly matched as of today. Now that could change next week.
Virginia is at home, so
they do have the advantage.
Has an advantage, but so those are the only matchups of Power 4 teams against Power 4 teams, and then we talked a little bit about Florida State against a non-Power 4 against New Mexico.
Correct.
But there are also some other interesting games on the schedule.
Yes. The first one is Jacksonville State at North Dakota State. Now, the reason I find this interesting is because North Dakota State, as we know, has won FCS championships for years. They've kind of been, like the Indiana or the Ohio, well, maybe not the Indiana because they're new to like college football league, but they're more like an Ohio State, who's always in it, either always winning or always in the championships. That's what North Dakota State has been in the FCS level. So this is their first year in FBS. So not that, Jacksonville State is going to be a super huge, opponent, but I'm really interested to see how North Dakota State does against these FBS opponents. This is a whole new challenge for them.
Yeah, this is a step up.
Yes.
But we'll see. You do still have that group of 5 entry into the playoffs.
Right.
Maybe it'll be a first year entrant.
North Dakota State.
First year FBS team. Maybe. We'll see. Their journey though begins 5:30 p.m.
Yes.
At CBS Sports Network.
Yes.
Any other games that jump out at you on that schedule?
Just one more, and that's the late game, and that's Memphis, who travels to UNLV. Now, Memphis has a brand new coach this year, and again, that's going way out to face Dan Mullen and UNLV. And Dan Mullen, he's some people have called him a quarterback whisperer. Not so sure about that, but he does do a great job with quarterbacks. They did pretty well last year, so I think that Memphis UNLV game could maybe be a deciding factor down the road in which group of 16 may go to the playoffs. Could be a factor.
Well, very interesting to get those games with playoff implications, thinking about who's going to be playing in December and January.
Yes.
already. Here we are, still in August.
Yes.
So, yeah, that one, Memphis at UNLV, 10 p.m. on Fox.
I mean, doesn't always happen because we thought the Alabama loss was going to take them out to Florida State, was going to take them out of the playoffs last year. Didn't happen.
Well, I think a lot to learn as the season
Yes.
unfolds. We said that at the beginning of last year too. So
Yes, we're going to start week 0 with many questions.
many questions and many answers to come.
Yes.
And we'll be right along for it, and I hope you will too. If you like what you've heard, what you've seen, hit that subscribe button.
Like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you think of our predictions, whether you agree or disagree with who we think is going to win the conferences. We want to hear from you.
And we'll be back every week, each week throughout the college football season to talk all about it.
That's right. And don't forget to like us and follow us on our socials, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. We are at Married to Saturdays on all 3 platforms.
We'll see you there.